Welcome to BDO's AI Meets Reality podcast. I am Kirsty Tiernan. I'm BDO's National Advisory AI Leader. And here we bring you real stories from executives and innovators who are using AI to solve real-world problems. Whether it's automating routine tasks to sparking strategic change, we cover the trends, the challenges, and the opportunities that are shaping the future of business. So if you're ready to discover how AI is shaping business today, let's jump into this episode's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to BDO's AI Meets Reality podcast. I'm Kirsty Tiernan, BDO's National Advisory AI Leader. And today I am joined by Jolanta Pomiotlo, Vice President of Technology for Marmon Rail, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. And she's helping lead innovation and transformation at this intersection of operations and technology. Jolanta, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kirsty. It's such a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation to be on your podcast.
I'm really looking forward to your practical AI lens. I know that we've talked quite a bit before, and we always come down to, well, here's what's actually happening. Here's what we're actually doing, right? You're always in it, you're experimenting, and you have a lot of just complex environment in what you're dealing with. So I think a lot of folks will be really interested to hear what you have to say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we're all on this journey, right? Trying to explore how do we leverage AI to become more efficient, to do things faster, to deliver value faster. So it'll be a great conversation. Looking forward to it.
So before we really get into it at the enterprise level, I love to start with something a little more personal because I want to know what you're working on. Like what's at night or in the weekends, you're probably dabbling a little bit here and there. What are you working on right now? What are your favorite tools? What are some of your favorite use cases?
Yeah, I think for me is I'm viewing it as like a tutor, right? Like you can research things so quickly. So a lot of my off time when I'm not working is I'm kind of learning about, because the tools are being introduced so quickly. So I'm just trying to learn as much as possible, the art of the possible, right? And playing with the tools, right? So when Claude Code hit the scene, let me try to build something, a little mini application by leveraging the tooling. So tooling is just exploring the different options that are out there. I think that's what excites me. And I'm in this like learning mode, kind of learning what's available, which tools are good at which specific tasks. But what's interesting is you kind of like, I'm a former software engineer. So it kind of gets you excited about building software again, because it's so easy. You don't have to do the traditional like coding per se. You provide requirements and suddenly you have this like feature rich application that's built very quickly. That's kind of exciting to me. So I would say a lot of former engineers that have gone into management or are just really excited about how quickly things can be built without having to spend lots of time in the code base.
And I love that you can build things and just play with them and not fully deploy them, but they can still help you in your personal life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's almost like you don't need an enterprise grade for your personal life, right? It's not like you're going to have thousands of users logging into this little app that tracks birthdays of your friends or whatever you decide to build, right? It truly is like this, like, well, it's just for me. I just want to play with it. So you don't have to have that, enterprise maturity per se, but it's also, even at the enterprise level, it's a great way to quickly build a prototype and to showcase to the business, like, is this what you're looking for? Especially on the custom development side of the house. So you can quickly kind of get feedback and ideas of like, that's not what we need. We need a little bit, instead of the traditional old way where you would spend a lot of time like documenting requirements and you would document that in Word. Like you can put a prototype in front of a user like in hours, if not like days, and get feedback very quickly, which is super exciting. I mean, it's a huge accelerator.
Yeah, I think it just limits that gap that we used to have between IT and business leaders, right? I feel like the whole reason I have a job is because IT and business leaders often don't talk. So you're kind of like the in-between. And that's probably your role pretty significantly is what does the business need and what can we provide, right? But then, I've had clients where it's like IT's like, well, tell us what you need. And business is like, well, we don't know what this AI thing is. What can it do for us? And they're like, well, we don't know what you want to do with it. Here's, and you just kind of end up with this squash.
If you know what's interesting, Christy, is this whole concept of foundationally nothing has changed. You really need to start with, like, you don't want to just do AI for the sake of doing AI, right? You still have to approach it as what value and what problem am I trying to solve? And AI is just a tool to solve that problem, right? If you're starting with, oh, there's this cool new coding tool and I want to start using it, well, that's not the right approach. What you need to start with, I have this problem. Right now I'm doing X manually and it's taking me so many people. And then you could look at, okay, how do I apply for that business problem or for that use case, right? How can I apply the right tooling, which could be AI, it could be something else, it could be machine learning, or it could be something completely bespoke, but you still have to start with the value proposition and the business problem and the outcomes you're trying to create versus just going off and playing with cool tools.
My personal favorite one this week was an app that I built for my kids for the summer. They're 11 and 13. They've decided they're not doing camps this summer. So they're home like for 2 months nonstop. I'm like, what am I going to do with them? So I have to teach them AI. That's one thing that I want to do. Yeah. But I built this little app that helps them schedule out their day. And I'm trying to give them, the ability to do their own thing. But I want them to build one thing, learn one thing, and then contribute one thing every day. So I was like, how am I going to coerce them into doing this? And so I created a little app that gives them like almost a gamified way to get through the summer and to do their chores. And so they're learning it, but they're also engaging with it. And being able to just throw something up so quickly is so fun. It's really cool to be able to show them that, right? They can build these things.
You're almost like raising little creators, right? It's a very different mentality of like, you're asking them to be creative and say, just think about use your creativity. Think about the things that you want. And you could build it very quickly, right? But you have to still have that creative mindset of what specifically, if there's a game you want to build, it's so easy to build it very quickly with these AI coding tools. So I'm a mom as well. I've got 2 boys, in grade school age, and they're infusing AI skills and AI tooling into the curriculum. They're teaching kids how to use AI to do things, how to build things, how to, be more efficient, and with some guardrails, of course, like sometimes they don't want AI just to like do their homework for them, but for proofreading, or it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then maybe so shifting a little bit to the enterprise side of it. I think, we always talk about these 5 steps to AI. You've got education, which we just talked about. You've got the strategy, which if I had $1 every time somebody said our CEO came back from a conference and now we got to do AI. I think that's like you said earlier, they always are kind of leading with it, unfortunately. But then step 3 is all about the foundation. And step 4 is change enablement. And step 5 is the iteration. Let's jump to step 3, which is that foundational piece, which you are right in the middle of. I mean, talk a little bit about the data architecture, data consolidation. They're such critical starting points. How did you at Marmon, how are you all handling that?
So I think one thing that you'll learn very quickly when you try to enable like AI use cases, right, is the data is so critical for your success. Like if you don't have your data in order, if you have fragmented data, poor quality data, well, good luck training an LLM on that data. You're not going to have good quality outputs. So one thing that we learned is if we don't have a strong data foundation, creating the data to train the models, that's where all the effort lives. It's not in actually building, the prototype that leverages an LLM. It's more about getting the data ready. And I think that's pretty in line with what I've been reading in the industry, that they say most people spend about 80 to 90% of their AR projects just getting the data ready, right? So then they could unlock that use case. So I would say data ontology, data context, giving data meaning, having good quality data. If you want good quality results and you want agents to give you good answers, you have to get that data ontology right. So I would say that's kind of the big lesson. And that's what we're working on, is making sure that we're creating a data foundation for future AI enablement. Because today, some of the projects that we've tackled, and this is years ago, we've been playing with AI like 5 years ago, the challenges we've always had in terms of making it to get out of a pilot into like production grade, operational efficiency enablement enterprise wide has been the data challenge. So, and I'm sure we're not the only ones in that situation. So one piece of advice I would give to companies as they get on their AI journey is start with some of the more easier use cases versus pursuing like these big problems. Like start with the little stuff and start with in places where you do have good quality data. And you'll be a lot more successful with getting those pilots into production and into unlocking value. If you start with like the big problems where the data is complex and fragmented, you're going to spend a lot of time, in pilot mode.
Yeah. Clients that have spent their time in the data governance over the last few years, they are off and running. That was probably the best investment and nobody wants to do data governance work. Let's be honest. I don't want to go sit in a data governance meeting. It's painful. It takes forever. And, it's not the most fun thing in the world. But I think like what you said, think big, but start small. And you don't have to go do data governance for your entire organization. That is overwhelming. But find a question that you're trying to answer or a problem that you're trying to solve that has limited data scope and start there and fix that. Because I think if you can use that data and you've got something to where it's reasonable to, actually put the governance around that, and then you can use whatever the AI use cases you have, you start to build some interest from the rest of the organization too. Like, oh, this worked. And oh, wow, that was really cool. Let's do this now. You don't have to do it all at once.
Chrissy, it's a great point. But what's interesting is traditionally we've spent a lot of time on data to give humans insights, right? So like to get quality dashboards and quality reports. And so you've spent a lot of time getting your data right to have real-time analytics, right? And real-time insights. Now we're prepping the data to have AI kind of consume it. So it's no longer the human consuming things anymore, right? It's shifting towards, I got to get the data right. So then I could throw an agent on it. So then it could go execute this workflow or, make decisions on our behalf. So that shifted. But at the end of the day, the data was always important, right? It was always important, whether it was for human consumption and for human use, or now it's being used for AI training. Like the data is, I say data is the oil, right? Data is the oil. It's the foundational component.
Well, if you take it even a few steps beyond it, so yes, you're using it for agents and automation and whatever else you might be consuming it for internally to generate insights and so forth. But I think we've seen a ton of data monetization. And now, too, with all the software, all the SaaS going headless, you kind of have this ability to say, okay, if you're focusing this much on your data, it's not only to provide humans insight, like we just talked about, but you could also probably monetize this in some way.
Absolutely. That's a very great point.
Yeah, I think, well, let's jump over to some of the change enablement. I mean, leaders, once they really understand AI, then they want it everywhere all at the same time, right? You get one good use case that proves something. Now let's go. So how do you talked about this a little bit about, not starting with AI, but starting with the problem at hand. How are you bringing that conversation back to the basics of what actually has to be in place first and helping them understand we're not just using technology for technology's sake, but are you doing like workshops? How do you prioritize use cases for build and so forth?
That's a really great point. Going back to the fundamentals don't change, right? Just like before AI or before we had these enablement tools, we had to be very disciplined in terms of what's the biggest value? How do we focus our project portfolio and IT side to match business strategy, to unlock value? That hasn't changed. AI is just a tool. So when you prioritize specific use cases or specific AI project, you still have to go through that same discipline that you've done before. I think what's changed is this. In the old days, and maybe still, right, developers and technical talent were scarce, right? And it was hard to find talent, as well as it was a very expensive process, right? To build software, to hire an engineer to build dashboards or reports, that was a very expensive and scarce skill set. So you had to kind of prioritize. I've got this backlog of everything the business wants, but I only have the capacity and the bandwidth, given my budget, to only do X. What's most important? Prioritize the work. Now, I mean, you're still prioritizing the value and the strategic initiatives that align with your goals and objectives, but you're able to plow through that backlog a lot faster because you have these accelerators. So you could build things very quickly. You could prototype things very quickly. The way you do requirements changes, right? So I would say there's still a big need. And this is why I know there's this industry fear of AI is going to displace developers and we're not going to need technologists and don't go into computer science because you're no longer needed. I just think that the roles will change because now these technology professionals will be AI empowered and AI enabled, but you still need them to plow through those backlogs because the backlogs are massive. Every IT leader that I've met has more projects that the business wants that they can handle, right? Even with AI on the scene. So we're still prioritizing AI use cases. So that hasn't changed. I just think it's going to make us more productive and we'll be able to plow through that backlog a lot faster. So, and who knows what the future holds in 5 to 10 years. But right now, I mean, I have way more projects than my team can handle, even with AI enablement.
I think that's even true in AI personally. I really thought once I saw this stuff happening, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to save me so much time. I'm going to be so efficient. I'm going to do all these things. And now I
Right.
just do a whole bunch more stuff. Like,
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, I've got this one running. Okay, so let's go to this next. Let's go to the nonprofit. Okay, let's go to my kids'
Yes.
schedule. Let's go to it's 1,000 things where before I was only doing 10. And
Right.
now I've just loaded my plate. And I think it'll be the same enterprise. We'll just realize how much more we can do. With all of that experimentation happening, how do not all of it leads to meaningful value. I had one the other day where we were working on figuring out how to automate this thing. And we got to the end of the conversation and we're like, well, okay, so how much is this going to save if we do this, multiple times? Oh, this will save us about 5 minutes a month. And I'm like, what? What are we doing here? You could have just done it for the next 3 months while we were talking about it. How do you prioritize?
Yeah. And that's a really great point because, high token usage does not necessarily means high productivity, right? Like you have to still be very strategic. And I know, like, I'm sure you've probably been reading in the news, like Amazon employees token maxing. And so like, you still have to have that discipline to say, I've got these AI tools, right? And these are my top problems I'm trying to solve. And this is the value I'm going after. And really being very strategic around where you focus. Because here's the thing. AI now enables all sorts of things and all sorts of possibilities, right? Very quickly. If you get distracted by doing 800 different things, they might be low value things. That's not where you should put your focus. You still have to put your focus on the things that are truly business value add and have the highest return on investment initially. So I think it's just discipline. You just need to have that discipline in your, in a use case and different asks. If a business person comes to you and says, we want to do this, you really have to assess what value will that provide if we actually go make that happen. So, and you have to also balance the cost of, the token and, the value of what you're creating as well. And I think the other thing too, Kristen, I'll mention is architecture becomes critical. In the old days when you had like Visual Basic and you had VBA with like Access and you had all these databases everywhere because the business went off and built their own little things for their own little area. And then you ended up with like an architectural hot mess and the data being in so many places. Architecture still becomes critical because of these tools, right? You still want to put a framework in place where you don't have, let's just say people start building little apps everywhere. You don't have your data in 18 million places. So foundationally, the fundamentals are still core.
Yeah, well, maybe jump into a little bit about people and in the change management side. So I find like communication plans are so important because you have people on all different areas. And one thing that we've really noticed is that when we're doing training, you can't give training to the masses, all the same training to the masses, right? You have to at some point customize if you actually want to get those. Because one thing we kind of notice is that if you're giving a co-pilot for finance training, very different than a co-pilot for marketing training, or very different for their salespeople. How do you approach the change enablement side, communications, anything really unique you're doing there that's really working?
Yeah, I think, some basic generic training. So on the generic stuff, like let's say you're drafting an email to respond, or you're drafting a communication, like that kind of use case or spans across different functional areas. So there's certain training that is just broader, right? And then you do have that specific functionally. So the way I would train my technology staff on AI usage, it would be very much on the coding tools, right? Here's an agent that does coding alongside with you, like Claude Code or equivalent tools. But for a finance person, I would really focus around some of their use cases, right? What are their current daily pain points? I know a lot of finance people live in spreadsheets, right? So whether it's analyzing spreadsheets or looking for trends, so I do agree with you, tailored training based on the functional area is where success lies. In addition to that, I think another aspect of is you're asking people to think different. They've done their job the manual way for years, right? And to get somebody to think different about how they approach their work. So instead of just opening up the email and start typing the old-fashioned way and you want to author everything, like to shift to an AI first approach is a very different, beast. Like you start out with an AI generated email and now you're tailoring it to what you want it to sound more like you. So I would say having people to think different and giving them access to the tools, giving them tailored training for their specific function areas, those are all keys to success. You also will have some people that will resist. Like, for example, like people who fear that they're going to be displaced through AI, whether it's a coder or a financial analyst. Like you have to overcome that resistance. Be like, no, we're not. This isn't going to displace you. This is going to accelerate and make you even more valuable because you're doing things faster, you're being more productive, you're doing things quicker so you could tackle more work. I think it's that mentality and explaining the why and really getting people excited in that fashion.
How did you all do it as far as rollout? You have individual license? Do you have a platform that everyone's
Yeah.
using together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are a big Microsoft shop. So Microsoft 365, right? So the natural transition for us was Copilot, like start small, right? Instead of starting with 18 million different tooling, whether it's, enterprise, GPT, or we started with a Microsoft platform. So we started with Copilot. Now we're exploring Cowork Frontier. And, we do have niche cases for the individuals. And we didn't do where we gave everybody a Copilot license on day one and we threw training. And we really started with like creating change champions and the more innovative individuals. So whether it's the IT staff, because we're very tech enabled and we like to play with new tech just by default, with some more advanced business users that they're more, tech forward. So we've kind of started with that. We didn't just pay for a license for everybody and now everybody has a license that doesn't know how to use it and now we're rolling out training. We're really gradually inviting more and more users into the AI tooling journey.
Yeah, we had like where we would have the very beginners, right? And then you have some of your power users. And I would still get emails from some of the beginners that are some of our clients that would be like, hey, I'm trying to use Copilot. I'm going to test it out. Can I put this data in it? It's sensitive data. I'm like, yes, that's what it's there for.
In Copilot, yes. In other like public tooling, if you're getting a free version of whatever, the answer is no.
I think there's some confusion there too. And it's if you're not in that world all day, every day, you're like, well, I can put it in this one, but not this one, right? Unless you're blocking certain ones and it's clear. But I think even Copilot being opened up like that and people being like, I still don't know if I should put this in there. Like, no, push the button.
Copilot's safe. Yeah. But what's interesting point there is the fact that if you don't have the right permission structures on like your SharePoint or some of your libraries, right? By putting Copilot on there and we don't have the proper structure, like you do like basically give somebody an ability to like query and get stuff that they maybe not should have access to. So I do feel like there's some governance and like making sure that you have proper permission set up within your tenant, within your Microsoft ecosystem. That's a foundational step before you just like start, letting people query everything with Work IQ, et cetera. So yeah, I do feel that governance layer, that security layer, teaching people what is allowed versus what's not allowed, that's critical for success.
Yeah. And having that review of your permissions. I mean, Copilot's great as far as like being able to see everything, right? And you kind of forget. And if you don't do a review of your permissions, the first thing anybody's going to go in and do is show me all the salaries of our leadership team or something, right? But if it's stuck in some random SharePoint site that nobody remembers, it's going to find it. Yes. So, I think the governance is always the hard part to get people to really focus on and think about. But I think if we have people asking the right questions about, questioning these tools before they're using them, that's really great to see because they are, approaching it with a level of caution that needs to be. But once you have the tools, once they're set up securely, once the privacy is taken care of, run, right? Like jump in and get going on them.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. What about, when you look at something, maybe talk about certain department areas or where you've seen the most success or the most traction. And maybe it's even in your own team around, kind of helping get your development team to move faster and using these tools. Is that where you've seen the most traction?
Yeah, I would say definitely on the IT front, but honestly, even within the business, like the analytics team, or it just really depends on the individual and their mentality, right? I have executives. Once I gave them a Copilot license, like, this is amazing. Yep. So it really is broad. It truly is broad because they're so easy to use, right? It's like you don't really need a lot of technical knowledge. You could just describe what you want and there you go. Draft me an outline for my upcoming executive meeting and focusing on XYZ and boom, you already have a starting point, right? So I think the Gen AI aspect of it has excited a lot of non-technical folks as well. And once you start using it, it's like you can't help but like be addicted to it.
So have you gotten to the point where I use it a ton, right? And then you start to see that certain tools will give you certain formats. Like we all know if you're using Claude, you're going to get that Claude design, right? You do your PowerPoint and it looks like Claude. Do you go through this like, well, now I got to change it so it doesn't look like I'm using AI, even though everyone knows I'm using AI?
I do it all the time. I mean, there's things that I remove. I'm like, that sounds very AI generated. Let's get rid of that, So I do feel like it's a great starting point, but you do want to do some tailoring and you want to put your flavor on it and your context on it. Otherwise, I almost feel like there's this sense now where people just dismiss content because they're like, oh, well, that vendor just created that via AI. And that was like just a cookie cutter presentation. They just threw my branding on it. So you become more discerning for true thought leadership and, for true kind of like, did the person actually spend time to draft that communication? Christy, especially for things that are like trust-based. And I always tell this to leaders, if you're drafting messages, that are like, let's just say somebody's parent passed away, like if you're using Copilot to draft a message to tell your coworker, I'm so sorry for your loss, like that is not an effective tool of AI. Like you still want things to come from your heart. You really want things to be very tailored.
Unless you're super insensitive and you need help with those empathetic messages, it might not be good.
I know. I think if you're trying to build trust, things always are best when it comes from the heart and you took the time to really, draft messages. Because I think the last thing you would want is to somebody, send you this cookie cutter Copilot generated or pick a tool generated content. And it's so obvious, right? Like for people who use AI on a daily basis, you can very quickly see that's generated by Copilot. Oh, that's, Claude. Or so I guess for people who don't use the tools, maybe they're fooled still. But for those of us who are actively, in it and use it extensively, like we could identify it very quickly.
Yeah. I'm totally judging people when I see an AI index created with Claude, right? And I'm why am I judging them? I do this, like I use it too, but I do. There is that trust factor. And I don't know, maybe I'm just expecting a little bit more effort going into hiding the fact that they're using AI. I don't know what I'm expecting.
That's a good point. It's like, you didn't even take the time to hide the fact that you're using these tools or to like tailor some of these, cookie cutter, homogenous responses. So you're right. It's an interesting world, but it's definitely, I mean, let's face it, like it does make you so much more productive and you're able to do so much more quicker. So that's kind of exciting. And what really excites me is just the compute behind it, right? In the old days, you would write a query, you would wait for minutes for the query to run and you would get outputs. Now things are just so instant. So the compute side of AI, what makes all these LLMs and these Gen AI tools spit out so quickly and such high quality content. That's just so impressive. That's what I'm most impressed with is just the speed.
Yeah. And the amount of enable it's given like ADD, right? Like it's sitting there. If it's sitting there for more than a minute, I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yes.
Right? Like I can't even wait.
You're like, that's funny. You're so true. You're like, I'll just walk away.
But I can't. I could run 3 other ththings in the meantime.
Right.
Okay. So there's so much to think about. Every time I think I got a handle on it, then like Google comes out with Google Omni. I saw it 2 days ago. I was like, oh my God, there's another one. But it's just nonstop. What advice do you have as we wrap up here? Just like what advice do you have for someone in your position in other organizations where they're trying to get a handle on this and maybe prioritizing everything? What would you suggest?
I mean, I would suggest is make sure you dive in and learn, right? Like this is a very transformative technology. And if you are just resisting it or not wanting to embrace it and you think it's just a fad, you need to learn, you need to get in there and you need to like experiment, try it out, have your business users try it out. I mean, that's kind of the start with the right governance and security, give people the tooling to experiment, give people the training, get them excited about thinking about the business differently and or just their day-to-day jobs. But just try to promote a culture where it embraces this technology because it truly is transformative. So I would just say, don't wait for, in the next however many years, take baby steps forward. You don't have to be training your LLMs tomorrow, but start with the easy stuff, right? Like Copilot is just a license. If you're already in Microsoft tenant or if you're in a Google, environment, like just throw in some of the embedded tools that the software providers are already offering, and just start playing with it.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. I always compare this to like, think about if the internet came out and you waited 4 years to get email or to get a website for your business. Like that's what we're 4 years from when generative AI came out, right? And you're like, oh, I'll get around to it. I know we have 1,000 things to do, and especially when moms, like there's just so much going on that it's kind of funny to think, oh, now I need 2 hours on the weekend to be able to play with my AI models that I'm building, right? And my tools. But it's so important. And I totally agree with you. Don't wait. We don't want to get behind. And, it's never been easier to jump into something like this, even though it's a lot. You can learn how to use AI from AI. Like, what could be better than that, right?
Absolutely. That's very good advice.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I love nerding out with you on AI stuff, and I appreciate your time.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Very fun. Love talking to you.
Great. For everyone listening, I think if there's a takeaway here, it is that AI does not have to be all this flashy, custom AI models. The real value is going to show up when you're hands-on and your team is figuring out how to use it to solve your business problems and to grow your organization. So if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you follow, rate, and share it with someone that is also trying to figure out how and where to use AI. So as always, if you want to keep the conversation going, you can find more at BDO.com. I'm Kirsty Tiernan. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on BDO's AI Meets Reality podcast. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe for more episodes. Visit BDO.com to find all our episodes and ways to connect with us and continue the conversation. Until next time, this has been another episode of BDO's AI Meets Reality podcast.